Do you remember that there were problems where you'd have like a $5,000 car, U sub 0 equals 5,000? You bought this car for $5,000. Now, do cars generally go up or down in value? Generally go down. There's exceptions to everything, but that's generally true. If you were to put this in a calculator, you'd need to tell it that you started at U sub 0. A lot of times you do that for a real world problem. Usually you either start at 0 or 1. And then they say UN equals UN minus 1. Do you remember that part? Remember how that's in every one of these little formulas? And then if I go like this, 1 plus 0.05, do you get what that means again? Did that make it grow or shrink?
Grow.
By what percent? 5%. Now if I go slash 12, what does that mean?
Per month.
We're doing it monthly. So if this, some of this is like, I don't remember this stuff, maybe you should copy this down and write some of those things in. This shows that it was 12 times a year. If you could do it quarterly, it could be a 4 there. All right. And then if I say plus 50, I can tell right away whether it's a loan or an investment. Okay, question before we get to that plus 50. Yes?
Is this the unit where we had to change like the mode or calculator?
Yes, there is, you don't have to change it right this minute, but yes, there is a mode change. Let's talk about that later. That's when we're going to get into how do you put it in a calculator. Right now, I'm not asking that. Right now, I'm just asking, do you understand each part of this little formula? So we started with 5,000, and I can tell whether this was a loan to buy this car or whether this is like some kind of a savings account. And if I put a plus here, that means that I'm saving up $50 every month. Now, if this was a car, that's probably not going to make sense. You're not going to put $50 into your car and stick it in the glove compartment or something. So then this would probably be a minus if this was a loan for a car. Is this ringing a bell? Okay. So now, if I was going to put it in a calculator, then where would I do that? Well, it would be under the y equals button, but by now your y equals button might not be in sequence mode. So everybody hit the y equals button on your calculator. There's a button that says y equals on it. And you'll be able to tell if it just says a bunch of y1, y2, y3, y4, or if it's in sequence mode. Because if it's in sequence mode, it won't give you a bunch of y equals things. It'll give you the sequence stuff. How many of you are still in sequence mode? Raise your hand if you are. All right, that's a lot of you. Those of you that aren't in sequence mode, the way you get in sequence mode is you hit the button that's called mode, and then you go to SEQ. Everybody, right now, make sure you're in sequence mode. Mode, find where there's function, but you want to be in SEQ mode, sequence mode. Then hit the y equals button. And for today, just for a brief time, you are going to have a partner who is going to be able to make sure your calculator skills are still there. And if you're like, I can't remember how to do this, you can lean over and look at theirs. All right, for now, these two rows, please slide 6 inches apart. These 2 rows, slide over here. You guys are going to work together. What's your standard today?
So, like the one that you're from the
Change it to sequence mode. I was not had the y equals. To go this sequence mode.
Find my class here. Go down. Where it says SEQ. You have to be the single sign on Joe there. All right. There you go. You guys 6 inches apart. All right. For today, I'm going to stand up. We're going to repeat. Okay, now with that partner that I just assigned you, I want you to try to put this in and figure out if it was a loan situation and you're paying it off $50 at a time, but there's a little bit of interest that you're having to pay. Is this actually going down every month? Do you remember how to figure that out? Hint has to do with the table. Take a second and see if you can tell if your loan balance is going down each
First
month.
one to find out.
Can't get your table to work.
Change like the
Talk to the kid next to you first.
It would be
we put in the
this one, so like it would be
To put in u n minus 1, you need a parenthesis right here on your calculator.
this one would be
And the n is the little button that has xt. Okay, the u is the letter u, which is above a key. I think it's like the. Let me look which key. it is. Above the 7 key. This little n right here is above the 7 key. These blue parentheses are needed.
oh, I think it's like second.
If your table is taking forever to load, go to your table settings and make it start at 0. If between the two of you, you are lost, both lost, raise your hand, I walk over, I'll fix it. So since more than one group has this wrong, everybody listen quick. This right here is n min. And the first thing you got to tell it is, what is n min? N min is 0 on this problem. That's what n min is. On the third line of your calculator is where you put the 5,000. The 5,000 goes in the third line. Okay? So you don't put that in till last. This part is the first thing you put in is n min is 0. Then the second thing you put in is all this. And then the third thing you put in is the 5,000. Okay, try that. And I'm going to make sure that everybody's got this straight. You'll be able to tell if you look at the table if our payment was big enough to make our loan balance go down each month. So you should see that it start at 5,000 and then go down, down, down. If the payment wasn't big enough, it's not going down. All right, so this number here was how much we borrowed. And then on your table, that 5,000 keeps going down. Why do you think that that 5,000 keeps going down? Because it's how much you owe them. Okay? So you owed them 5,000 at the beginning, and then it slowly goes down every month. You owe them a little less and a little less and a little less. Okay? Now, how did I get this payment? I totally just made it up. But do you remember there was another program that would actually figure out payments for you? We'll go through that one in a second. So, I think for a $5,000 car, a $50 payment a month probably isn't very realistic. Not many people have payments that low. So let's change the 50 to a $200 payment each month. And then my first question, after you're now hopefully putting this all in the calculator right, is how much would you still owe after 1 year? If you made $200 monthly payments, how much do you still owe after 1 year? If you still owe $5,000, something's wrong.
I forgot to divide by 12.
All right, did you guys get 2,800? All right, so you still owe 2,800 after 1 year. This is making sense to you again. Remember how to put this in the calculator. All right, I would recommend you just leave this in your calculator then, and then if we change the interest rate to be like, oh, it's not 5%, you'll have it all in there, and you could change it to like 7%, right? Okay, all right, now let's go to that other app. It's called the TVM Solver. All right, listen please. Even if you were lost before, this is a completely different topic. We got to get you onto the TVM Solver. It's under Apps, Program. I think Program is first, right? Program button, and then apps. Let me look.
Apps, finance.
Apps first. Apps first. Sorry, not program. Apps. Finance. TVM solver. I'll be impressed if anybody has a short-term memory enough to remember what TVM stands for. I'll give you the first word, time. Time value, money. Yep. Does money have a time value? Yes. Think about it this way. Let's say I owe you $100. And I say, I'll get it to you. 10 years from now, I'll give you the $100. You'd be like, that sucks. That's worth way less. Because there's a time value to money. And in fact, you could make a deal and say, sure, I'll pay the $100 in 10 years, but then you're going to say, well, then it's not $100, it's $200. Because then you get a little interest to make it worthwhile. Okay, so if you haven't already got there, the TVM solver, please get there now, and it should say N at the top. And then it says I, and hopefully you remember what these mean. Now I'm going to give you a scenario. I want to tell you the scenario, and then I want you to put the numbers in the right spot. Same scenario of a $5,000 loan, and this time we're going to say it's at 7% interest. And we're going to say that we want payments that it'll figure out. Like, I don't know what the payments are. So you'll have to figure out the payments. What else do we need to know? Well, we need to know that it's going to happen 12 times per year. That's monthly. And is there anything else I have to know? I have to know it's 5%, $5,000. Is there anything else that would affect the payments? Yes? Yes, that's true. If you're borrowing the money, what do you want the future value to be? 0, good. And last thought, there's one more thing we haven't addressed, Josh. The amount of years. Now, if I say 5 years, that is a typical car loan, but you just put in a 5, do you get how that's going to be a problem? All right. So it is 5 years, but don't put in a 5. All right, talk to your partner about how you think you should set that up and get the payment.
Just make that as one.
C per year and C per year should be the same.
Oh, it's like.
Is that 5 years?
Alpha.
Okay, by now I hope you've caught on that N was not 5 and it was not 5,000. N is the number of payments that you're going to make. Why isn't it 5 then?
Because you're here.
5 times 12. You want it in months, so that should be 60. Raise your hand if you guys are doing the 60 right. Okay, good. The next one's interest, and that one's pretty obvious, except it would be easy to think 0.07. It's not. It's just 7. Okay. What's the next one after I? PV? What does PV stand for? Present value, and that's 5,000. Do you remember that negative numbers come up in this? Okay, so let's talk that through. Are any of the first 3 numbers negative? No. Why not? Well, because the negative numbers have to come out of your pile of money every month. So what's going to be negative is the payments. That should come up as a negative at the end. All right. And then what's next after PV? Pay? Or PMT? PMT. And we don't know that. So put a 0 in for now to just, otherwise it won't let you go past it. So you got to put something in there. And we'll alpha solve that later. And then FV, which we already said is going to be 0 because it's a loan and you want it to be future value of 0. It's paid off. And then you have to tell it that you're going to do it 12 times a year and then 12 compoundings. And those always stay at 12 for pretty much every problem. And then the very last thing is about end or beginning. And that's the end of the month or the beginning of the month. Is everybody on end? Make sure you're on end. Okay, good. Just make sure that the last thing it says on that screen is end. Then, if we alpha solve on the payment, you just go, several kids last hour had forgotten how to do that. It's right above enter. So to get to that word, you got to hit alpha and then enter, and that solves that. How many groups have already got the payment? Raise your hand if you've already got the payment. All right, you guys got the payment? Do you? Okay, good. So then, let's see. Violetta, would you read me your payment number?
$99.
Just even 99 exactly?
99.005.
0.005. Ooh, that's pretty close to exactly. But technically, if we're going to go to the penny, which we probably are, would you guys agree that $99 is pretty close, but 99.01 would technically be to the penny? Okay. And if you don't know how to see that, you have to like go right on top of the number. All right, now at 99 bucks a month, you're going to have your car paid off. But at the end, you will have paid more than $5,000. Right? Because you're going to make 60, that's this, payments of 99 bucks. And 60 times 99 is pretty close to $6,000. It's an outrage. I thought you were paying $5,000. No, what's the extra money? Interest. Take a second and you and your partner figure out exactly how much interest did you pay. If you paid more than $5,000, you paid interest. Do it to the penny. 99.01. Your payments are 99.01.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys agree that at some point you came up with 5940.6? And that was the total amount you paid. And I think you guys are getting that if I subtract off the 5,000 that you were paying for the car, the interest was 940.6. Or if I was going to put a 0 there to make it look a little more logical, $949. Or 40. Sorry, I messed up a 9, made up a 9 there. 940.60. Okay. Do you get how it's probably worth remembering how to do that? All right. So that's going to help you with some of the questions in the review packet, but there's a couple that we haven't covered. So let's imagine for a moment that you had this simple equation. Everybody just focus on this. Don't write it down. Just listen. If I had u0 equals 10, un equals un minus 1 times 2, you could answer several questions about this. Like, could you tell me the first 3 terms of this? That's pretty easy, right? What's the first term? 10. What's the second term? Doesn't this just mean you're timesing by 2? Yeah. So if the first term's 10, what's the second term? 20. Third term? 40. Okay, good. Now, be careful. If I say, what's u sub 2, you're going to be tempted to say the wrong thing. What is u sub 2? 40. Wait a minute. Why is this one u sub 2? Well, because this one's u sub 1 and this was u sub 0, right? All right. Next thing, was this growth or decay? Growth. What percent growth? Careful, it's not 2% growth. It's not 200% growth. I got a lot of you. I want you to talk to your partner about what percent growth it is. If it's not 2% or 20% or 200, it's none of those.
The first one, right?
All right. A lot of you have landed on 100%, and you are right. Let's explain why. Would you agree that I could write 2 as 1 plus 1? Right? And then if I had just had a 1 there, and I said how much growth is there, when you times by 1, there would be no growth. Right? If it just was a 1, there would have been no growth. Only the part after the 1 is how much growth there is. All right? So that tells you there was 1% growth? No. 10% growth? I'm timesing by 2. Is there really only 10% growth? No, it'd be 100% growth. Raise your hand if you had figured out the 100%. You got this 100% thing? All right, that's not many hands. I'm going to give you one more try. Don't write all of this down. I'm just going to tell you a story. Your friend is late on their payments, and they say, fine, I'm going to give you triple what I owe you because I'm late. Sorry about that. You just got a percentage growth on the $20 that they owe you. If he says, I'm going to give you triple what I owe you, what percent growth did you get? Don't say it. Talk to the kid next to you.
Because it's 1 plus 2.
Yeah.
All right. Triple means 3. You know you're smart enough to say it's not 3% growth. Duh, that's way more than that. And it's not even 300% growth. It's 1 plus 2 is the same as 3, right? The amount above 1. 200% growth. Raise your hand if you had 200% growth. Okay, good. All right. Now, I'm going to give you one more of those equations. U0 equals 10. Write this one down, please. UN minus 1 times 4.1. Would you agree you have growth here? Then, would you tell me 2 things? One is, what is the common ratio? And one is the growth. We just kept talking about the growth rate a whole bunch there. So what was the growth rate? And then hopefully you'll know the difference between the growth rate and the common ratio. I'll pause for a second while you guys figure this out. Okay, if you haven't figured this out by now, you should have separated it into 1 plus 3.1. Why? Well, because all of our equations had a 1 plus in them, and then they'd have like the rate right after the 1. Okay? And that tells me that it was not 3% growth, not 31% growth, but 310% growth. That should have been the easy part. Then what is the common ratio? This number, 4.1. The whole thing. That's the common ratio. That's what you're multiplying by each time. You're going to multiply by 4.1 each time, right? That's the common ratio. Okay. So if this feels like really stressful because you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail this final, I'm bringing up one of the hardest things that we did all semester, and it's one of the easiest things to forget because it's not like normal math. It's like, how do you put this in a strange calculator program? So with this review, obviously, you'll do a little better on those problems, but most of the math isn't going to be this hard to remember. I'm on purpose starting with one of the hardest things to remember about the final. All right, now you have 50-some questions, I think it's 54 maybe, in the very top file in the Schoology document, and you should do every single one of them. Now, I know 54 questions sounds awful, but keep in mind, you have 10 days before the final, and therefore 10 days to do 54 problems is about 5 problems a day. But that means working through the weekends, So maybe you should aim for more like 10 questions a day. And I think 10 questions a day is doable. And there's a key posted, so don't tell me you couldn't possibly figure out how to do them. And there's a key posted too, okay? The very top file is the one I want you to do, okay? All right. Now, you have a bunch of time. I don't want to force you to work with the kid next to you, so at this point you may slide your desks apart, but feel free to ask them if you're stuck. And that's all I have for the video for today.